Bonjour.
Good evening. We are truly starting now, so please have a seat. Please also make sure that the hallway is clear. We're going to start in 10 seconds.
Le direct. C'est bon. C'est lancé. Une oreille, hein? On y va. Il y a 6 ans ici.
6 years ago today, there was an Islamophobic and terrorist attack. We want to focus on these recent years, and we want to turn to the future together. So this is why we are here today, to take stock. Welcome to the 6th public commemoration of the attack of the Great Mosque of Quebec City on January 29th, 2017. My name is Marianne Bassiri. My name is Sophie Marois. Salam alaikum. We are from the civic collective I Remember. For those joining us in English, good evening. This year's commemoration is special. 6 years after the shooting, we are back at the Great Mosque, in the very same prayer hall where a killer shot down 6 of our fellow citizens on a quiet Sunday night. A Sunday night just like today. Returning to the mosque to commemorate this attack, this Islamophobic attack, is full of emotion, of meaning, and desire to find collective appeasement and build the solidarity needed to move forward and build together. Tonight we gather to offer our sympathies to the families and loved ones of the victims, to those wounded, to the survivors, and to all those affected by the tragedy of January 29th, 2017. 6 years later, we keep their memory alive, not only to remember, but also to renew our commitment to an inclusive society where caring, openness, and solidarity leave no room for discrimination, racism, or Islamophobia. Together, let us ensure that no other life is snuffed out by hate. By coming together tonight, we are on Nyanwetsio, the traditional Huron-Wendat land. We wish to start by welcoming Mr. Rémy Vincent, Great Chief of the Huron-Wendat.
Wendake Hindare. Bon début de soirée à tout le monde.
Good evening, all. I would like to welcome you on the essential land of the Huron-Wendat, Nyanwetsio. I was asked to say a few opening remarks. It's extremely important for us to be here tonight. Caring, solidarity. These are words that represent our nation well. This is what we did, and this is what First Nations have done and are still doing. Welcoming. Partnership, knowledge. How important is knowledge? Dialogue. Knowing who is around us. When we learn about one another, we learn to cohabit. I believe this is the most important word tonight, solidarity. Let's take the time to know people. Take a few moments to pay a visit, to go out of your way to learn. This is the way that we can learn to live together. This is how we eliminate racism. This is how we can avoid tragedies like what happened today, or rather here, 6 years ago. I hope you have a good time tonight. We are very much with you. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Vincent Tiawenk.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Now we are going to hear Mr. Mohamed Labidi, President and co-founder of the Islamic Cultural Center, along with Imam Mohamed Fouad, for some opening remarks and a reading from the Quran.
Je préfère qu'on commence par le Coran.
I would prefer that we start with the reading of the Quran.
Bienvenue à tous.
Welcome all. Mr. Prime Minister, dear dignitaries, organizers for this commemoration. Here, we welcome you at the Great Mosque of Quebec. We're very honored to have you with us. Let me start with reading a few verses from the Quran. These verses are about martyrs and martyrdom in Islam.
من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل صدق الله العظيم. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Barakallah.
Thank you. Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, dear Deputy Premier of Quebec, dear Ministers, dear MPPs and MPs, Salam alaikum. Peace be with you. Welcome. Welcome to the Great Mosque of Quebec City. This is Sunday, December 29th. We are commemorating the 6th anniversary of the tragedy that happened here. Before continuing, please allow me to honor the memory of the victims. Soufiane Azedine, Mamadou Tanoubari, Ibrahima Bari, Khaled Pekahimi, Albert Karim Hassan, Abu Bakr Tibti. We also want to think of their loved ones, also people who were wounded as well as survivors, and all of those who every day in their body, mind, and finances see the aftermath of this cruel act. It has been 6 years already, but still we live with the consequences of this act. We all have a duty to remember, so that never again any Quebecer or Canadian will die by hate. We must never forget. January 29th must remain a reminder that trivializing indifference and intolerance can fire. Commemoration today is something that will help us to remember guiding principles for a prosperous society and for living together. So, dear friends, what have we done to improve cohabiting in our society? The Muslim community is still looking after its wounds and is still fighting ignorance through openness. More than ever, we are encouraging any and all initiatives for living together harmoniously. We know how ugly hate can be and how fatal its consequences can be. This is a hall of worship, and we saw it bloodied by the blood of martyrs. We want to have resilience. On the federal level, because we're going to take stock of these years, so on the federal level, a lot has been done, or is being done, like dealing with firearms, establishing January 29th as a national day of fight against Islamophobia. These positive actions came also with the nomination of a Muslim Canadian, Miss Amir Al-Houbi, who is here with us tonight, as a person in charge of the fight against Islamophobia. So we want to thank the federal government for all of these positive actions. On the municipal level, our beautiful city, Quebec City, we have been working with the city to promote living together, and a lot of actions and initiatives were indeed materialized with Mr. Labaume, our previous mayor, and the new mayor, Mr. Marchand. We do see net improvement, but a lot remains to be done to contribute to cohabiting and fighting against Islamophobia. Provincially, we are still awaiting concrete actions that will promote harmonious living together and the fight against Islamophobia. The first step is awareness that racism and Islamophobia are true issues in the society. Dear fellow citizens, we also did receive a lot of love from the Canadian and Quebec society. We want to give our warm thanks. We are very grateful. We see your warmth and openness. I know also that there is work to be done still. Prevention, of course, is better than cure. I believe this is the harder fight. I've traveled throughout the country. I met Muslim men and women who are in love of their country and their province, who are so willing to contribute. The doors are wide open. They're wide open for everyone with their own convictions. Come Meet us. We firmly believe that we can live together harmoniously. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Liberty and Fouad, for these welcoming remarks. At this point, we're going to observe a minute of silence. We've heard the names of the victims. We're now going to pay tribute to these men. So let us observe a minute of silence while we say their names in the very place where they lost their lives. Ibrahima Bari, Mamadou Tanou Bari, Khaled Belkacemi, Abdelkrim Hassam, Hazedine Soufiane, Aboubakar Tapti.
Nos prochains invités.
Our next guests were here on this evening of January 29th, 2017. They survived and still carry visible and invisible scars and injuries. They agreed to speak on behalf of the survivors and those wounded. They have since worked for remembrance of their brothers who were shot to death by hate. To the responsibility that they carry with honor, kindness, humility, and much dignity. Mr. Saïd Akshou, please come forward.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening all. I didn't really prepare a speech. I want to thank you for being here. I also want to thank those who have sent me messages on Teams, Messenger, to tell me that they are thinking of us and also thinking of Missiam. I saw this tragedy that happened here. I can even tell you where my brethren fell. And these losses, well, there's always some positive, a silver lining. We're gathered here tonight to say no to violence. This is a moment that we have thanks to my fallen brothers. I also want to thank you. Many faces here, I know some have been here in previous years already. The message, I mentioned that the tragedy happened 6 years ago, and what we do every day to contribute to better living together, to be accepted and be accepted and accept. This is a message to my Muslim brethren. Meet people, your neighbors or your co-workers. Please contribute to sharing and to getting to know each other. There's mistrust and ignorance. This is, you see, a mosque, a building with a carpet, and this is where we connect with God, quite simply. And the person who burst in here and did so much damage, he could not see a human in front of him as human. Their fellow citizen, he didn't see. The father, he didn't see. But this person is very close to his parents. What matters for the future is, as I just said, yes, it happened here in Quebec City, but still today, I'm proud. I'm proud to belong to this city. And wherever I am, in Africa, in Europe, I always invite people to come to Quebec City. And I say that this is a safe city, a beautiful city, where we can live in peace. I can say that I'm happy to be here tonight. My prayer and my sympathies go to the brothers I lost, and I also think and send my thoughts and prayers to their families and their children. Thank you for being in attendance, and also people who are with us from a distance. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Arjour.
Thank you, Mr. Akshor. Let's now welcome Ayman Derbali.
Monsieur Derbali est accompagné par...
Mr. Derbali is here with his son. Good evening, all. I also have not drafted the speech for tonight. This year I was somewhat sick. I went to the hospital several times. But thanks to God, I'm doing better. What I like for this commemoration of the attack is the efforts invested by the Islamic Cultural Center in trying to have open house days and activities over these last 4 days. This is very positive. This very much fosters openness and moving towards our fellow citizens, to be closer to them, to extend an invitation. I think these efforts should be a reality in many places, in schools, colleges, etc. I think we need to have discussions so that the world can know more about Islam. This is also our duty as Muslims, to extend a hand to others. This is the very first lesson that I learned, unfortunately, in a bitter way. Many people, due to ignorance about the Muslim faith, they believe we are perhaps dangerous. But this is due to ignorance. So we need to open up a lot more. Open up with the community, with our neighbors, and have activities and persevere and invest every effort so that we can really be open, especially raise awareness with the youth. The youth is the future. We really need to go towards them in schools, middle school, high schools. This is what I've noticed this year, especially in preparing this commemoration. I also heard my brother taking stock of what was done in recent years and what still remains to be done. I do apologize, there is one thing that is very close to heart that I need to mention. Justice was served, that is true. And we do respect the decision of the Supreme Court. But I would like one day that we all be treated equally. I'm alluding to the label terrorist. We name this a terrorist attack, and yet the perpetrator isn't qualified as a terrorist. So I find that there is work to be done, because this concept, this injustice in using the word terrorist, I believe we have a ways to go so that everyone be treated equally. Unfortunately, we know when a Muslim is the perpetrator, then it's a terrorist attack. But when the perpetrator of a hate crime, if they're non-Muslim, then it's not a terrorist act. This is a blatant injustice. We need to stop. We need to stop this. How should I put it? Things need to be fair. We need to use the right words. If an attack is hateful and terrorist, then we need to use the right words. Terrorist is not a label just for Muslims. I truly think what I'm saying, and when they changed the sentence, I have to say I'm very moved, but I accept this because I'm a Canadian citizen, and I accept when justice is served. I accept it somewhat bitterly, but I am a citizen of this country. I accept, and I surrender to the Supreme Court and to the Canadian court system. I respect the law. And yet I still need to express myself about this issue. This issue about the label terrorist. This is still something that bothers me. What's the relationship between using the word terrorist or not and our faith? This is truly unfair, and we need to think about this. Why is a label reserved for just one group? This is not written out anywhere, of course. And yet this is how we apply it consistently. We noticed it also with the Las Vegas attack. Early on, the police said someone was converted to the Muslim faith, and the media started using the label terrorist attack. And then a few hours later, in a press conference, then it was said by the police that there was no relationship with the Muslim faith and the attack, and then everything changed. The media changed and did not use the word terrorist anymore. Islam has nothing to do with terrorism. Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of peace. We came here, we have our families here, to contribute, to build a stronger Canada, a country that's more fruitful, more prosperous. And we came here for to offer our children a future and to contribute to a place where everyone can thrive, regardless of their origin. This country was built thanks to immigration, let's not forget that. In this country, the population comes from the whole world. So let's be in solidarity with one another and contribute to building a better Canada. I want to really thank all the dignitaries, Mr. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has always been attending here, who really supported us. I also want to thank the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal government as well. And I want to give you the example. Despite the 7 shots, I never thought of leaving Quebec City. I spent 22 years. I came in 2001, in January 2001. So I lived here 22 years. I studied here. I worked here. My children were born here. I got married here. I live here and I want to stay here. And this is a very safe place despite everything that happened. We're hoping that such a tragedy will never happen again anywhere in Canada. Thank you so much for being here.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Derbali. Merci.
Thank you so much, Mr. Derbali. Thank you both for your testimony. Now, the co-founder and spokesperson of the Islamic Cultural Center, Mr. Ben Abdallah, he was one of the first to speak about the attack and made a heartfelt appeal for solidarity and action. Let's welcome Mr. Boufelja Ben Abdallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam, Kwe. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut ajouter?
What can we add to what was already said? Our brother who felt the shots in his very body, including in his neck. What is there to add? We are the weak when we stand before you, Amen. You're stronger than all of us. Just 2 weeks ago, he was in the hospital. Just 2 weeks ago. When we met his son, he said, "My dad is not in good shape. He's in the hospital." And you see here tonight, with strength, you see him smiling. You see him carrying his truth, making appeals to us so that we can build a better world. Thank you.
Si nous devons dire des choses,
If we must say something, it would be, dear families, loved ones, you've lost spouses and family members, children who cry for their father at night and ask where daddy is. We're here for you tonight. We're here to support you, to say we haven't forgotten you. And you said so at the first commemoration. We can't forget our husbands. Yes, we're here. We did not forget them. Every one of them.
Et nous n'avons pas oublié
We also have not forgotten those who were wounded. They're here, survivors as well. We have not forgotten you. I'm very glad to see you here tonight. See the efforts that you're investing for the Quebec society, the Canadian society. We must be grateful to you because you are trying. You want a country with kindness where people can live on your land, especially you First Nations who are hosting us, welcoming us. I remember when Mr. Vincent said, "You're at home here." Thank you so much.
merci à vous.
Of course, we are very emotional. We think that we have healed, but our tears remind us what happened and show solidarity. If you're here, if you took time tonight to come, you set aside other priorities to be here and to share and to say that you're here with us. Mr. Prime Minister Trudeau, you've been here several times. The mosque knows you today. You were sitting over there on the floor just like you're doing now, and we have not forgotten you. The mosque and the community have not forgotten you. Thank you for what you've done in terms of the fighting against Islamophobia and racism. You are investing efforts, and we have Minister Hossein also with us. We thank you. These are acts that we're so grateful for. Mr. Mendicino also, thank you so much.
Et Monsieur Mendicino convient.
Mr. Mendicino, that we're just finding out about managing firearms in the cities of Montreal, Quebec, and otherwise, that these shots not be fatal. He said, yes, I will help. I will help so that the laws can manage this. We will never control everything, but yes, we're expecting these laws. We're anticipating them, and this is drafting a page of history where we can have a country where we can safely live together. Thank you so much, Mr. Mendicino.
Nous avons avec nous nos.
We also have MPs and MPPs here with us. Joël Lightbound, the very first who supported us. Thank you so much. Rachel Ben Dayan, who is also someone who's fighting for a country with no arms, or at least very few ones, because we understand the borders need to be controlled. I want to thank the minister from Quebec, always here, smiling. He said, if we go together, then we can go farther. There is some African wisdom in this man. Thank you so much. Geneviève Guilbeault, Deputy Premier of Quebec, this is your first time in the mosque, and we're very honored. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. I was seeing you chatting with children. This is the compassion that we want from politicians. You're close to people. I think all MPs and MPPs should do that. And I was seeing you sitting by Mr. Dubois from Quebec Solidaire. There you go. You said, he's my friend. Thank you. Thank you. This is how we want things to be. Just like the federal government also, who will have a surprise for us next week, but this is a scoop, I can't say more. Deputy Premier, we do have one thing to say. Could we talk to Mr. Legault? We want him to hear that he should have been here. Isn't this true?
Au contraire, votre présence nous honore.
We're very honored to have your presence here, and this sends a message that even though we have a difficult law that we deal with, and I won't talk about that, I know he has a good heart, and I think he will do the right thing for the Quebec society, for a better future. Please be our ambassador and our messenger, please. Thank you so much.
Je ne peux pas terminer sans...
I would be remiss if I did not mention the city of Quebec. Where is the mayor? He's so humble, always discreet. You are changing things. Just yesterday we had Régis Labaume, that is still his name. He's looking at me. You are here now. We are you and you are us. Thank you for accepting to meet the families of the victims. They were so glad to see you sitting alongside them. Thank you so much.
Premier magistrat de notre belle ville.
First magistrate of this beautiful city. This city was also dear to all the victims. You heard my brother say that how much he loves his city. Well, those who left us also love the city. Do know that. Your presence is so significant. And especially, I believe you are the youngest mayor yet of Quebec City. Is that correct? Or amongst the youngest. See how humble it is. And on the other side of the screen, Régis, you're not that old. Don't worry. You're okay. You're like an old apple tree giving out good apples. Please, in our traditions, you know, when there are deaths, we gather 40 or 50 years later, and we gather with friends and family. These are moments when we share, when we relax together, we read the Quran together. If I'm being a bit of a clown today, it's because I want to bring appeasement to all.
Je termine en vous remerciant, monsieur.
Let me thank you, Mr. Marchand, for setting up the Commission for an Inclusive City. This is so welcome. I'm sure that this will be fantastic. And you're modernizing the city also. And I think the tramway is a good idea, by the way. Dear members, dear MPs and PPs, thank you for coming here. Yes, the tramway I think is a good idea. Yeah. But sustainable development, let me tell you, is at the core of the city. Sustainable development is extremely important, and no one will put down a tree without it being offset by 10 or 20 more. Let's say it. And if people are against, then it's really sad. But I'm almost done. Yes. Dear MPs and MPPs, thank you again. I see all the kindness and sympathy you have for us. Thank you so much. And also thank you for the diplomatic corps. I believe the American consul is here. Well, or if not, over here, yes. Thank you so much. Times are hard, but Our ancestors also faced difficulty, but now we have so much information transiting. We always feel like the doom is impending, but no, that's not true. We're changing things so that we can live together, because we're all here in Quebec, in Canada. We are all here to grow this garden of living together. By looking at what we're doing in the city with the Rendezvous of Quebec history. Why do we do this? This institution? Well, it's there so that we can add newcomers to the citizens. Every time one immigrant comes, there is so much richness that is there for the host culture. Mr. Neil Santamaria, he's the president of the Canadian Foundation Against Racism. He told me just a few days ago, I met him in Montreal. He said, "Let me remind you what Frantz Fanon said in their book, Peau noire, masque blanc." There was a beautiful sentence in there. He said, when people try to dehumanize us, they're a minority. They push us to say they don't like these people. Let's continue. When they try to dehumanize us, in fact, our duty is to show them humanity all the more.
Frantz Fanon.
Frantz Fanon. May God help you. I thank you, because society will make a difference. Beautiful Quebec society. I swear, people speak to me. When I met with Manon Massé in Montreal, right away she came, not just Ben Abdallah, but this person who is a member of society and who wants good for society. And I'm just one of many who are discreet. I try to be more visible, somewhat. Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Ben Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Abdallah. Islamophobic violence began way before January 29, 2017. And even after this attack, one of the most deadly in the country, some still refuse to acknowledge this. Since then, more lives have been snatched away by hate. On June 6, 2021, the lives of 4 members of the Afzal family were cut short while they were taking a walk in their neighborhood in London, Ontario, because they were Muslim. The youngest was 15. Her friends and classmates founded the Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia in her memory. Tonight we will hear a public letter written by Mariam El Sabawi and Huda Salam a few days after the death of their friend in 2021. Let us welcome Maria Gassam, 17, a member of the Youth Committee of the CCIQ. She dreams of being a teacher. She will read this letter to us in French.
Notre très chère Yumna.
Dearest Yumna, the last few days have been unbearable for us. We can't make sense of this. We don't understand why anyone would kill you. You and your loving family. We feel like this is a nightmare. But it's real. It's real, you're not coming back to school. It is real, the world will never see your smile again. It is real, we can't stay up all night talking anymore. It's real. You are dead because you were a Muslim. It's real. You are dead because you were you. We drove by the place where you were shot today, or killed today, and we imagined you lying alone, your last moments in this world. The thought of your pain and your fear is haunting us at night. What ifs have been racing through our minds? What if he knew how special you were? What if he knew you were such a gentle and loving friend? What if he knew how much you loved dolphins and the color purple? What if he knew that you were a talented artist? What if he knew how much potential you had? What if he knew that your brother needed you? What if he chose love and not hate? Remember how excited we were about our future? Remember when we would laugh so hard that we couldn't breathe? Remember when we planned to start an art business and we wanted to donate the profits to charity? Remember when we spilled all of our secrets on Halloween night? Remember when you wanted to wear the hijab, but you were afraid that something would happen to you? Remember how we were afraid too? Remember after the Quebec shooting, they promised us that this wouldn't happen again. They told us that we should not be afraid. They told us that we were safe. They told us things would change. Yet, they didn't. We were sorry that we couldn't save you. We were sorry that our world failed you. Our promise to you, Yunma, is that we will dry our eyes and raise our voices until everyone hears us. We will tell the world that Islamophobia is real and that it killed you. We will tell them that we will wear our hijabs with pride. We will show them that our hijab represents strength, love, and resilience. Most importantly, it represents our beautiful faith. We will tell them that hate will not silence us, and we will not live in fear. We will tell them that we hold our governments accountable. We will tell Prime Minister that his words are not enough. We will tell him that your life mattered, especially to us. Say her name, Yumna Hafsal. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a woman who inspired you, Yunma, said change requires courage. We hope that all Canadians, and in fact people of the world, will have the courage to choose love over hate, with love.
Merci Maria, merci.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for conveying these courageous words to us, and we hope that you may become a teacher and that no obstacle will stand between you as you are and your dream.
Ici comme ailleurs, vous l'avez vu.
Here and elsewhere, a new generation is mobilizing, calling for a fair and inclusive society where everyone has the right to live in peace and to thrive regardless of their origin, skin color, or clothing. Let's welcome Zineb Filali and Munir Ladada. They're members of the Youth Committee from CCIQ.
Il y a 6 ans,
6 years ago to the day, we witnessed an extremely violent act. Our brothers were victims of hate, but especially of Islamophobia, the fear of Muslims and of Islam. I'd like to share a story. At my last year in high school, I was 16. I was working at Quebec. We were part of a small team, supervisors, who were helping us was always absent in January. And then we didn't see him again. I remember very well of Zineb, 16, who thought, I hope he's doing okay, because I was worried about his absence, the absence of this supervisor. A few weeks later, January 30th, still shocked by the tragedy, I look at my phone. I look for news about the shooting, and I learned that the perpetrator was my supervisor. I saw him every week. I cried. I was confused and shocked. I thought maybe I should have talked to him more and debunk some myths and offer a better image of what Islam is. An image that had been conveyed erroneously by the media. The true image is that of mutual respect and generosity, where things have unfolded differently. I was naively wondering, but this was fate. This is what I would like to have said 6 years earlier, because we cannot change the past. We look to the future. Thank you.
Soyons clairs.
Let us be clear, January 29th is a tragedy. Tragedy for us, for our communities. Sometimes we can feel discouraged, left without hope. However, we need to remember that we all have remarkable strength, resilience. Resilience is the capacity to bounce back, to continue to move forward and adapt to change. Life is full of challenges, and thanks to this strength, we can overcome these difficulties. The Muslim community, including its youth, were major examples of resilience. They proved time and time again how resilient they were, and they were mobilized for their community. We looked to optimism, perseverance, coping abilities, and we were also comforted in our spirituality to overcome dark moments. I think of last week with the youth committee in partnership with IDRF, we were able to hand out 70 meals to people in need. There were about 40 young people who contributed to this initiative, and it was beautiful. Beautiful to really extend a helping hand to someone whom we don't know, but who deserves this dignity. The enthusiasm of our volunteers was tangible. Building bridges. This is our leitmotif.
Il est important de se rappeler que la résilience...
Resilience does not mean that we feel no pain. No. It means we can face these difficult emotions, work through them, and move forward. We must pay tribute to these lost lives by living in a dignified way. This is the ultimate tribute we can pay them. Building together a better society, because this is what they would have wanted. Let's raise our heads and face the future with strength.
Merci Zineb.
Thank you, Munir and Zineb. We heard solidarity and relationships being fostered amongst cultural and faith-based communities, civic groups, and neighbors. Relationships we've fostered also with other victims of the Polytechnic, Ouagadougou, London, Pittsburgh, Boston, Christchurch. One of these ties that we're so proud of is that of our relationship with First Nations. Mr. Picard, you and your communities have been present since the day after the attack. Your solidarity is so precious to us. Let's welcome Ghislain Picard, Chief of the Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador.
Vous saluer, je vous ai pas vu peut-être un peu dans l'assistant. Oui, j'ai pas cité, merci beaucoup.
Kweji dat nou, je gaat het ook. Het boek gaat het nou. Het twee koharon die jiska hagat. Omen jis we het nog stayak. Kees pas pepe hekto dagoyek. Kodasta panu de utat. Het gaat gewoon te shut zie te sium jak. Echt mis dat een maat mis kan hem nu. Ze winnen dat het maakt. Ze zien het toe. Spedele me goed jak. Maar ze zien bij hek toe daar goed jak. Dan moet je moment is maar goed jak precies die bijman. Bonsoir à toutes et à tous.
Good evening. Mr. Abdallah. Your words are strong. I thank you. Grand Chief Vincent, thank you for hosting us tonight. Mr. Prime Minister, Miss Deputy Premier, dear federal and provincial ministers, elected officials, members of the Muslim community, and also I want to acknowledge the youth. We share something with you.
Les jeunes, oui.
Youth, the youth are our future. This is something we have in common. I want to acknowledge Ayman and Saeed especially. If I'm here today, it is for you especially, as well as the families who went through horror 6 years ago. We know that pain is heartfelt. We know this pain. We want to support politicians doing more to uproot racism and Islamophobia. Our people, like yours, are faithful to their principles and practices in their very own context. We are natural allies. From the colonial regime some time ago that we want over, along with religion, everything was done to eradicate our cultures, everything characterizing them, what was making them distinct. Our practices for long have been demonized. Residential schools that we've heard so much about in the recent years is one of the attempts to eradicate our peoples. We resisted. Yes, there were great losses and deep wounds with impacts that are often underestimated on our pride, our identities, our languages, and our self-worth and pride about our culture. I may exaggerate slightly, but only slightly. We must cope with adversity since 1492. Despite this, everything has shaped our resilience and determination, even though our wounds are just starting to heal. We're still vigilant. We know that the obstacles to coexisting are still here. We are not born racist. We become racist. This is something that we hear over and over again. So the fight is not in vain. We need to multiply success stories that showcase inclusion and respect and love. Let me conclude by insisting on the essential contribution of governments. The fight against intolerance, racism, and hate is part of our daily activities. We need first to call a spade, and that your dedication be continued. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Picard.
Thank you, Mr. Picard. 6 years after the attack, we have a right to wonder where our collective fight against racism and Islamophobia stands. Again, this civic commemoration is an appeal to politicians to recognize and acknowledge, to take responsibility, and to take action. It was mentioned earlier, but we want to acknowledge Ms. Amira Agawabi, attending, Special Representative for the fight against Islamophobia in Canada. We hope and wish you a fruitful mandate. 6 years later, our worry is still growing with the liberation of hateful words towards immigrants, Muslims, and minorities in general. It was hate speech and the far right that led to the radicalization of the Mosque killer. In January 2017, just prior to the attack, he consulted nearly 400 web pages of content related to the far right and supremacism. Hate speech still exists. Islamophobia is a reality, and Islamophobia kills. As Mr. Picard reminded us, we are not born racist. We become racist. Let's now welcome the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, dear friends. Miss Deputy Premier, Mr. Mayor, Chief Picard, Chief Vincent, other dignitaries and friends, thank you for being here. Thank you for welcoming me here. Thank you for all of you who have taken up the floor. Your testimonies are moving. I hear, I listen. Whether you're a loved one of the victims or simply someone who came to show their solidarity, please continue to express yourself. It's important that all of our voices be heard, conveying a very clear message. Hate and violence do not have a place in society. January 29th became a very difficult day. The pain is nearly unbearable. We remember Khaled Belkacemi, Azedine Soufiane, Abdelkrim Hassan, Abu Bakr Tabti, Mamadou Tanou Bari, and Ibrahima Bari. They lost their lives here with a terrorist shooting at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City. We also think of the 19 people who were severely wounded. 17 children growing up without a father. Fathers who would have loved to be here for their birthdays, for their graduation, and perhaps to meet their grandchildren one day.
National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. We remember the victims of the horrible terrorist attack here in Quebec City, in this very room, 6 years ago. We also remember, as was brought up earlier, the Afzal family in London, Ontario. We remember Mohammed Aslim Zafis, a volunteer who was killed outside an Etobicoke mosque. These people were targeted because of their faith, because of their culture. These attacks were motivated by hatred and Islamophobia. Canada is a place of openness and respect. And we must therefore recommit ourselves every single day to these values. This is not a place, this is not a country that happened by accident. And it will not continue without effort, without each of us knowing that it is our individual and collective responsibility to speak up, to reach out, to be there for each other. This is why we appointed Amira El-Khawabi as Canada's first special representative on combating Islamophobia. It's an important continuing step in our fight against Islamophobia and hatred in all its forms. I've known Amira for a number of years now. She has an extensive career supporting initiatives to counter hate and promote inclusion. She will be a friend to all Canadians across the country. Amira El-Khawabi est avec nous aujourd'hui.
Amira is with us today. We had a chance to chat earlier today. She will be acting as an advisor, an expert, in order to help the federal government in the fight against Islamophobia, systemic racism, race-based discrimination, and religious intolerance. Thank you, Amira, for being here tonight. Thank you for accepting this important role. One of the reasons that make Canada a fantastic country is that we know that it is always possible to do better. And it is our responsibility to keep trying to do better. We know that we can do better, but we're also willing to commit. We continue investing efforts to make our communities safer and more inclusive. This is why we have banned some specific firearms. We created the very first strategy of fight against racism, and with Amira, in partnership with the Quebecers and all Canadians, we will continue to build bridges between our communities. You know, we often mention that in Canada, we can show that diversity is a source of strength and resilience. We see that when neighbors show up for each other, when we are open to various stories, cultures, approaches, we make our communities richer and more resilient indeed. We also need to ask ourselves why. Why does that have this kind of impact? It is because when we are open to difference, when we open our heart to someone who is different from us, we learn. And we are transformed. It's by reaching out to the other that we can learn more about ourselves. Ignorance, intolerance, hate, fear. We must fight against those with openness, comprehension. There is no religion in the world that requires us to tolerate our neighbor. Tolerance is not enough, not for a country like ours. We must talk about openness, friendship, love. This is the lesson that we gather here to be reminded of. This is very moving, being here for this commemoration tonight. This is a prayer hall, a place of gathering, a place for community, a place to draw energy from, to reflect, a place where friends get together, where families get together, in order to show up as they are. We don't forget what happened 6 years ago. We celebrate those that we've lost and those who are still here, who are building every day a better world for our children, grandchildren, and neighbors. One of the ways that we must pay tribute to the victims is to continue the fight against racism, hate, discrimination. Every day. Let's do this together. Let's do this for one another. And let's do this in tribute of Khaled Azzedine, Abdelkrim Abubakar, Mamadou, and Ibrahima. Thank you, dear friends.
Merci, Monsieur Trudeau. Nous allons maintenant...
Thank you, Mr. Trudeau. Let's now welcome our Deputy Premier, Geneviève Guilbeault.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Good evening, all. It's difficult to speak after these very lucid and wise words of everyone who spoke before me. I acknowledge all the dignitaries that are with me tonight, but especially you, members of our community of Quebec, Quebec City, Mr. Ben Abdallah, your team, ladies and gentlemen, members of the community, children, youth. You are welcoming us here in your home, our home. We've seen such a warm welcome. We were here a bit before the ceremony, and I want to thank you for this warmth that you give us for the first time. Some of my colleagues have been here a few times, and we are always amazed by the warmth of the relationship since the tragedy, fatal night here in Quebec City. We all keep, of course, a lot of pain that's very raw for everyone, of course. And 6 years later, as was mentioned, this pain is being transformed. As Munir said it earlier, the best tribute we can pay these 6 victims is to build a society that will be ever evolving. So this warmth that I feel tonight are part of this tribute and of building a society that is ever more inclusive and warmer. The Premier would have liked to attend here tonight, but through my voice you hear his compassion and his kindness and solidarity, because for the last 6 years, and I believe in all tragedies that unfortunately we're confronted with in history, facing so much pain and hate and tragedies, we must look at kindness, love, togetherness. And if this is one thing we're able to do, is to show this solidarity. So please know that the government is here with you through my voice, and we have a duty to remember these victims, their loved ones, and we must do that not just on January 29th, but every day with our acts and our decision making. Everyone must do this if we're going to build a better society. So we're with you with this fight against hateful speech, which, yes, is unfortunately taking up so much room, way too much room, with various targets. But we must fight it every day. In response to such great tragedies, the one thing we can focus on is kindness, love. And this room here tonight, the children that I'm seeing here, the young people, the babies that we hear cooing, when we become a parent, and most of you likely are parents, when we become parents, our children become the reason that we do everything we do, the reason why we want a better society. Our children, grandchildren, they are an extension of ourselves, and we're hoping a better version of ourselves. So for our children, for our 6 brothers who died, for you, friends, families, members of the same community, for our youth, we must build this better society. This is my wish for us. This is my wish for you, dear friends. And young people, this is also my wish to you. And like it was said, children are not born racist. And with these gatherings, these commemorations, with kind and lucid commemorations, this is how we can transform society for our children and for the victims of so many tragedies. Quebec City is a safe and kind city. It is an inclusive city. You are at home here. Same for your children, for our children, my children, and for those coming later on. We want to give them a city that they can make even better. Peace and love to all of you, very sincerely, from the Premier and from the government. My wishes are for this kindness to be with you. I thank you for welcoming us, for your authenticity, for the moments that we've shared earlier. Thank you so much. Peace and love to you.
Merci, Madame Guilbeault. Accueillons maintenant le maire.
Thank you so much. Now let's welcome Mr. Bruno Marchand, Mayor of Quebec City.
Ibrahima
Mamadou, Khaled, Abdelkrim, Azadine, Abu Bakr, for their loved ones and ours, their families and ours, their community and ours, those who survived, those who are fighting, as Munir said also, those who are embodying resilience. I greet you. I greet you, and I thank you for your warm welcome, despite the context. To Prime Minister Trudeau, to Deputy Premier, Ms. Guilbeault, Mr. Vincent, and Mr. Picard and Mr. Vincent. We share many things, and I think we can show that. that we can work with the community, despite our differences, in creating something beautiful. Someone asked me, oh, we're still commemorating after 6 years? This was an interesting comment. And I wondered why. Why are we commemorating still? So I looked within myself for an answer. Well, because we still feel the absence. We're still looking as communities and as individuals for meaning, and because we want to say, never again. And in order to do that, we need to remember, unfortunately, the past. We want to remember that hate leads nowhere, and we could ask millions of people where hatred led to, and we would see that it's never beneficial. Wherever it is, in our mosques, churches, schools, public places, social media, as some alluded to, hate will never lead us anywhere. We're facing great challenges, immense challenges. We should not forego the contribution of any of us, the 6 victims, and many more. It would be sacrilegious to leave them behind. I've never met these 6 people like you did, but I believe that if they could tell us something today, it would be that despite our differences, we need to build bridges, not walls. We need to reach out and listen. We need to walk together, often, short distances and long distances. We need to share a meal together, to sit at the same table, and sit at the same table and look to the future. Extend a hand and tell our children that there is no one around the table, despite their differences, and my own first. We can't forego anyone's contribution. It's the only way we can meet the challenges that arise. The only way to say that if we are to build something that will resist the test of time, it will be with everyone. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Marchand.
Thank you, Mr. Marchand. We are now wrapping up this 6th commemoration. To do so, let us welcome artist and activist Ahmed Sandra Adam. From a Muslim father and a Christian mother, Ahmed is a Quebecer of Congolese origin. He is currently a high school worker. He works in various settings, in school and community settings. In 2017, he worked for the Multi-Ethnic Center of Quebec.
Je me souviens du 29.
I remember January 29th, 2017. I was with friends, we were watching TV. One person put the news on. It seemed unreal. We heard that there was an attack in a mosque in Quebec City. In my mind, everything stopped. I could see myself saying to one of the families I was just with a few days prior, so close to this place, you are in one of the safest cities in the world. This is what I told them. Life is absurd. I was wondering, before the shots were fired, how many letters, how many comments, how many pig heads, how many Islamophobic gestures did we have? How many had preferred to look away while a climate of fear and division was taking hold gradually? How many had taken this mistrust, this hostility towards immigrants seriously? Immigrants. We've been here for a while. How long should we be immigrants still? When Ibrahima and Mamadou will become Emmanuel and Samuel, when Khaled and Abdelkrim will become Daniel, Justin, when Abu Bakr and Azadine will become Michelle, Joel, when will we stop being immigrants? As long as we do not oppose discriminatory laws. As long as we trivialized preconceived ideas from some people, some media, some policies, as long as we allow immigration and violence to be associated together, or to describe immigrants as a danger or a threat to Quebec's identity, by pretending that we are not working, pretending that we don't understand French, or by pretending that we do not subscribe to Quebec values.
On doit lutter contre l'intolérance.
We must fight against intolerance, against fear of the other. Like the day after the tragedy, despite the cold, it was heartwarming to see all of these people. I remember a little girl with a huge sign, "Dad, you are my hero." A few days later, I was doing homework assistance. The little boy said to me, "Daddy got shot because he was praying." These children, should they also experience this discrimination against Islam? Or against people who look Muslim or who are Muslim? These fathers did not die merely. They were murdered. They were killed in a place of worship, a place of prayer and of peace. Let us stop taking for granted in remembering the victims and their loved ones the courage of Amen and other survivors, and to never go through such a tragedy again. Let's stop taking for granted that being a Quebecois means being white or having a commonplace name. Can we want to live here while remaining attached to our country of origin? Could we be a member of the Quebec community and member of a faith-based community, or any community for that matter? Yes, indeed we can. And we want this for our future society. But before we can build this society, we must take down our prejudices. Fortunately, things are looking up. Because we are finally talking about this hostility towards foreigners, especially towards the Muslim community. We're finally talking about this. After that dark night, a Muslim cemetery was built. Bridges were built as well between mosques, churches, and non-religious entities. All of this to develop a mutual understanding and to foster reaching out and encountering the other. Thank you.
Merci Hamed pour ces...
Thank you for these wise words. This is the end of our commemoration. This is the time where, as an organizing committee, we want to remind you that this is an initiative of the Citizen Committee of January 29th, I remember, in collaboration with the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec. In fact, we want to remind you that the entire organization of the civic commemoration since 2017 is based on volunteers. Volunteers who dedicate their time and energy for months. And their sole purpose is to enable a civic gathering like this one tonight. We cannot thank everyone, but we do want to thank Raja, Daniel, Melina, Samir, David, Sébastien, Hajer, Nora, Sarah, Gite, Zaria, Clara, Mohamed, Pablo, Françoise, and all of the others who answer our call year after year. Without you, these gatherings could not happen. We want to thank everyone who has been involved in Quebec City for the past 6 years, but also throughout Quebec and Canada in solidarity activities related to January 29th. To the political class, you've heard us today. Many words were mentioned several times. Living together, coexisting, resilience, but also we talked about action. Each person talked about the duty to act that you bear. We hope that you heard them, that you heard their appeal, and if any actions are in place, may they continue, and we're also waiting for new actions. The Muslim community will be there in order to materialize these actions. We truly hope that you heard us tonight.
Aussi pour le financement.
Also regarding funding, we want to thank Heritage Canada, and we remind you that the recording of tonight's commemoration will be available on social media. We encourage you to share the recording, because this is how we can disseminate the good words that we heard tonight. This was our first time gathering at the mosque in 6 years, hopefully not the last one. You are all welcome. Welcome to share moments with us so that we can think together, that we can reflect on racism and Islamophobia, so that we can move together and build Quebec and Canada together. Thank you.
On vous rappelle qu'on est dans une salle de prière.
We remind you that this is a prayer hall, and we will have prayer time very soon, so we'll try to give you instructions in order to make it possible to leave the room so that the prayer time is accessible. Yes, this is part of the constraints of being in a mosque, so please move towards the exit and Thank you for your patience with gathering your belongings and your shoes. Thank you so much. Mr. Ben Abdallah is also asking for a picture if you're available.
Ah, ok. Les familles, mais les familles ont pris des
Photo de famille, ça s'appelle photo de famille.
Ah, oui, c'est ça. Mais quand...
C'est plus beau.
Ouais, c'est ça. Mais il y a eu plein de photos, plein de...
Et symbolique, les choses ne sont pas faites de mon mariage.
Mes félicitations encore une fois. Bravo.
Merci pour votre présence. Voyage.